Hours after the G7 meet, Zelensky's drones struck targets around Moscow in one of Ukraine's largest long-range attacks. Moscow shopping center and oil refinery hit as drone strikes bring disruption deep inside the Russian capital region. Zelensky's attack threatens fresh pressure on energy markets, just as hopes rise for stability following the Iran deal. Ukraine fires nearly 200 drones at Russia, forcing air defenses into action across multiple regions. Kyiv's strikes risk adding new uncertainty to already fragile global markets and energy supply concerns. Zelensky now faces the prospect of a harsh Russian response after failing to secure stronger backing from Trump. Ukraine on June 18 struck multiple targets across Russia, including a major oil refinery, according to Reuters reports on the attack. Footage showed thick columns of smoke rising above the Moscow refinery complex on June 18 following the reported drone strike. The strike marked the second attack in 2 days on the key facility located in Moscow's Kapotnya district. The scale of the attack caught many Muscovites off guard and reportedly triggered panic across social media platforms. Russia said its air defenses destroyed 555 Ukrainian drones across multiple regions during the overnight assault. Moscow Mayor Sergei Sobyanin said air defense units shot down 180 drones that were headed toward the Russian capital. Sobyanin acknowledged that several drones still reached the Moscow oil refinery despite extensive defense efforts. The Guardian reported that at least 7 drones appeared to penetrate Moscow's air defense shield during the attack. An earlier Ukrainian drone strike had reportedly shut down operations at the Moscow refinery before the latest attack. The strikes added to growing damage across Russia's energy sector caused by Kyiv's expanding long-range drone campaign. According to The Guardian, Moscow is preparing to import fuel by sea to ease shortages caused by refinery damage. The attack followed a major Russian barrage of ballistic missiles and drones launched against Kyiv in recent days. Vladimir Putin had previously warned Ukraine of impending systemic strikes across the country in response to attacks. The attack came hours after G7 leaders vowed to boost support for Ukraine in its confrontation with Russia. The Ukrainian strike also came after the US and Iran signed an MOU to halt the war and negotiate a final deal. The release of the US-Iran memorandum has triggered a fierce battle over who emerged victorious from the negotiations. While Washington portrays the agreement as a framework tied to Iranian compliance, Tehran is presenting it as a major diplomatic win. Iran's parliament speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf says the deal reflects what he calls a failure of US pressure on Iran. Ghalibaf argues that history will judge the agreement as evidence that Washington failed to impose its demands on Tehran. Iran's parliament speaker also claims the memorandum includes provisions for roughly $300 billion in future investment for Iran. Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf said, and I quote, "The other side is not willing to accept that it was the aggressor, because in that case it would have to pay all damages." Instead of paying compensation, the text emphasizes concepts such as reconstruction and economic development. Within this framework, $300 billion in investment has been envisaged, part of which would be allocated to reconstruction and compensation for damages, unquote. The claim fueled speculation that Tehran had secured major economic benefits in exchange for joining the agreement. However, US officials quickly pushed back against that interpretation, insisting the deal's benefits remain tied to strict conditions and compliance requirements. Senior US officials insist the memorandum does not authorize any immediate payments to Iran. According to Washington, the agreement contains no requirement for cash transfers, grants, or direct financial assistance. Officials say the reported $300 billion figure refers to potential private and foreign investment that could materialize if Iran complies with the deal. They stress that any economic relief would depend on verified progress toward a broader and final agreement. US officials also emphasize that sanctions relief will remain directly linked to Iranian nuclear concessions and continued compliance. Washington has also rejected claims that frozen Iranian assets would be automatically released under the agreement. US officials say Tehran sought immediate access to restricted funds during the negotiations. However, they insist the final text makes clear that no funds would be unlocked simply because the deal was signed. According to Washington, the release of frozen assets would depend on what it calls demonstrable Iranian compliance. Officials say certain funds could become available in the future, but only if Iran fulfills specific obligations under the agreement. Iran's parliament speaker says Tehran plans to introduce shipping fees in the Strait of Hormuz once the 60-day transition period ends. Ghalibaf says the fee-free arrangement outlined in the memorandum was never intended to remain in place indefinitely. Mohammed Bagher Ghalibaf said, and I quote, "Strait of Hormuz will not return to pre-war conditions. Iran has the right to sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz, and of course we will receive a fee for services." Unquote.
During the war, I wrote in a tweet that the Strait of Hormuz would never go back to the way it was before, and I still hold that view today. That does not mean, however, that we intend to disregard international law or establish rules of navigation. On the contrary, our actions will remain fully within the bounds of international law.
The remarks appeared to clash with U.S. expectations that commercial navigation through the Strait of Hormuz would remain free of new transit charges. Washington argues the agreement was designed to reopen the waterway and ease global shipping, not create additional costs for maritime trade. U.S. officials also indicated that American military forces will remain in the region for the time being. They say any future changes to the U.S. military posture will depend on Iran's actions and compliance with the agreement. The memorandum may have ended the conflict, but the battle over what the deal actually means is only beginning.
$25 करोड़ गरीब गरीबी को परास्त करके बाहर निकले।
For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
The fastest news breaks.
Requested PM saying that look, you will have to speak to Putin and to Zelensky.
The biggest newsmakers.
The relationship with India is probably the most important bilateral relationship the U.S. will have for the rest of this century.
The capital delivered quite an election result today.
Expert analysis.
The million-dollar question today is how to stop this dance of death.
Ground reports.
I'm standing at the crossroad of the Kumbh Mela. Behind me are more than 100 entry ghats.
Long-form interviews.
Exclusionary politics is reflected in Manipur case as well. You don't bother because this is a small state.
Deep dive into burning issues.
It's often said DRC could be the richest country in the whole world. It's because of what sits underneath.
Why exactly did the US topple the Sheikh Hasina government?
HD videos. We don't just break news, we break it down.